Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
Rhode Island's economy has gone through rough seas, but some companies have bucked the trend. One of those is Hunt Yachts in Portsmouth. The marine trade firm has tripled its business since 2009 and just finished the most successful year in its history, recently earning a Boat of the Year award from Sailing World. This week on Executive Suite, Hunt Yachts president Peter Van Lancker. Plus, a summit at Brown University is spotlighting social enterprise. It's the first national conference about the fast-growing category of businesses which exist to improve their communities. On the second half of Executive Suite, Social Enterprise 101 with Social Venture Partners Rhode Island CEO Kelly Ramirez. Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, a diverse show. We'll talk about social enterprise later in the program. But first, I'm glad to be joined by Peter Van Lancker, a seaman, a man of the ocean. He's the president of Hunt Yachts. Peter, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Ted.
And Peter, first off, yachts. People might be imagining Aristotle Onassis off somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea on a huge boat. When we say yachts in Hunt Yachts, what kind of boat are we talking about?
Well, the reason it's called yachts and not just boats is really sort of to state about the level of quality that the boats and attention and personal nature that they are. You know, we build boats and create boats for customers. They're not something that you just come along and buy one off the street. They're very personal, and there's a higher degree of quality and attention paid. So that's really the designation against yachts versus just boats.
How big are the boats?
Well, they really range a broad range from 25 feet all the way to 68 feet, which is quite exceptional, but that has a lot to do with the knowledge base of the design firm and sort of the history of the company and things like that, and the capability that we had in, you know, bridging that range and sort of the way the business grew.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about how the business grew and what the business is today. And I want to start all the way back in the history of this firm. Hunt Yachts gets its name from C. Raymond Hunt, the famous naval architect. A magazine in Maine once called him a New England Archimedes, which I liked. Could you tell me about where does Ray Hunt fit into the history of boat building and naval architecture?
Well, Ray Hunt, you know, was an intuitive sailor and, you know, raised in the area doing sailing, you know, a lot of sailing and a lot of experience with boating. And he took that experience and then got into the industry of boating and the design of boating. And really the most significant change that he made to the industry was the development of this deep V hull back in the 60s. And it really turned into a paradigm shift.
Deep V hull, there might be people watching who don't know boats at all, except they don't want to sink.
What does that mean? It's a hull form. Okay. Essentially that lifts itself out of the water, but it also creates great stability and comfort as well, and predictability in the water, because it's an environment that's changing. So, you know, predictable is a good thing. And this man had come about intuitively to develop this hull form because he was a designer and doing designs for different things. A lot of sailboat designs, the Boston Whaler 13 and things like that. But the significant thing that was really a huge shift to the industry back in the 60s was this hull form. And really the whole industry has adopted it since then. And Hunt has actually, over these 30 years, continued to refine the performance of that hull and refine its use for different applications in the marine industry, both commercial and recreational.
I believe Ray Hull also the Concordia yawl, one of his?
Yeah, a very famous boat that's really cherished here regionally, all built out of wood, sort of a post-war thing, built in Germany. Apken and Rasmussen were all built, all delivered to paid Narum, all commissioned there and things like that. So it has a huge local history. One unique fact is that out of 100 and some boats that were built, almost everyone's still in existence, which is very exceptional that they've been held that closely and things like that.
Not a lot of wrecks either.
Yeah, not a lot of wrecks, and the wrecks that were repaired and things like that.
Going, yeah. Now, what? Obviously, if you're on a boat, you could travel anywhere to build them and to sail them. You could take them and head off somewhere else. What was Ray Hull's connection with Newport and New Bedford, this area?
Well, I think just family-wise, he started here in Duxbury and things like that, and he sailed in Duxbury. I think his father started the Duxbury Yacht Club, so that's really where it was geography. And he was a New Englander. He lived in New Hampshire. He lived in Paid Armitage, and he was on these waters all the time. And then he used that experience to come up with some inventions that, and some of them really changed the industry.
Now, you just won, I mentioned at the top, an award from Sailing World magazine, and it was for the boat, the Hunt 44, which is the boat people saw in the introduction to the show today. Tell me about that award and tell me about that boat.
Well, actually, we won 3 awards with that boat.
Excuse me, right, yes.
It was funny because we got a consecutive awards one after another. And really the reason that boat won these awards was because it finally was a culmination of, many things that made made it award-winning. First from its arrangement, to its size, to its detail, to kind of the whole package really being right. You know, and people recognize that, and they recognize the achievement in doing that as a company within the industry.
Now, one of the most amazing things with Hunt Yachts is I started digging into your business. You've tripled your business from 2009 to 2012. That is going to surprise people considering the economic climate. How did you manage that?
Well, it surprises me, to tell you the truth, because it was really quite a challenge.
You're supposed to say it was your brilliant plan.
Yeah, it was a brilliant plan. Right? But honestly, it was, you know, it was really a swimming upstream and seeing where the opportunities are. And
No pun intended.
Really, no pun intended, but I mean, that's what we do every day. We try to find the opportunities, and we also, you know, have to protect the company all the time. And we were fortunate to have that result. In 2012 was really the best year we've ever entertained. And it was, a lot of it was product development. You know, during these down periods, I was able to, through customers' loyalty and interest in our projects and stuff, and in our products, was able to tool a 44 and 52 footer in the worst downturn of the recession, essentially, which was remarkable in itself. And because of that happened, that brought in new sales. I entered new markets in a recessionary economy. And because you do that, you grab market share from somewhere else, and was able to build a company, even during a downturn.
People are going to wonder, you know, they hear yachts, they're going to think of people with maybe a little more money than your average bloke on the street. How much is your business driven by sort of high-end income trends, and whether people at the upper scale have the money to spend on a boat?
Well, all boats are somewhat driven by high-end income. Ours are really the top of the pyramid, even so. So very much so, because of the level of quality, detail, and personalization that we do. So yes, it's been driven. It seems, you know, and it's a bit of a roller coaster ride sometimes, you know, and you have to manage through those and stuff like that. You know, we saw an increase in 2012, which carried us well, and now we're trying to duplicate that in 2013. Every year is a challenge.
It is for all of us.
Yeah, right.
We have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Peter Van Lancker about Hunt Yachts and what we can do to build the marine trades in Rhode Island. Stick with us. You're watching Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. We're talking about the business of boating. In the next segment, we'll talk about social enterprise. But right now, I'm joined by Peter Van Lancker. He is the president of Hunt Yachts. And one thing about Hunt Yachts, they are partly built in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is key to the production of the boats you build. Tell me about that.
Well, we moved from Massachusetts to Rhode Island, and we had and really the opportunity was this fabulous location.
Or?
Yeah, recently, 6 years ago. It was probably now 7 years ago, but really what was key is that we had a waterfront location. We were able to lease a waterfront location and base our business and have our headquarters on the waterfront in Narragansett Bay, 6 miles up from Newport, and next door to other boat builders and stuff like that. So we were very fortunate, and our key, the location has been key to like building our presence in the industry and locally, and also was allowed us to supply service to our customers with the boats that they did build.
And you know, there's been a lot of talk in recent years about production moving in and out of the United States, and not to mention especially Rhode Island and Massachusetts. I mean, do you expect you'll always keep some production here in the domestic?
Oh yes, very much so. You know, well, first of all, some of the smaller boats, it's not economic to build them and ship them.
Yeah.
The bigger ones start to make some sense and things like that. But you know, again, the environment, and you know, I'm a Rhode Islander, trained in Rhode Island, grew up in Rhode Island, so we're very much attached to Rhode Island. And Rhode Island's just, you know, boating environment is so fabulous for an industry like ourselves, you know.
And there's a broader industry there. You're on the board of the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association, I believe. And you know, there's been talk. We've had a couple shows actually where marine trades have come up as an example of an industry where Rhode Island has a natural advantage with the water and with what's already here. I mean, how would you describe the marine trades right now in Rhode Island? How important are they to the broader economy, and how's it doing as an industry?
Well, you know, from my perspective, it's important, obviously, because I'm involved in it, and I also advocate for it and things like that. And I've also seen it transition from, you know, I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and I've seen Rhode Island's, you know, industry transition from where it was to where it is. But RIMS's role is very important. First, you know, pulling together the members into, you know, sort of a focused advocacy for the industry and things like that. And there's also really two aspects of the industry. One is the recreational use of boats and the service of boats, and it involves the body of water that we live in, which is unique in the world. And I think a lot of people don't even realize how unique that opportunity is to leverage that as really making Rhode Island the yachting capital of the world. Somewhat like what Switzerland is to skiing. You know, Rhode Island needs to own that position. Now, the other side of the industry is really the boat manufacturing, and Rhode Island has a unique center of talent and center of expertise that is really located sort of mostly on the eastern side of the East Bay area and Bristol and things like that, but then goes into southeastern Massachusetts. That is a bunch of core builders that have been here for years, and that is a huge resource that you can use and leverage, as I did, to building a boat company. Because there's many, there's upholsterers, there's laminators, there's all kinds of those resources within a very small area.
The whole production change.
The whole production change is there, right.
And you mentioned advocacy. What would the Marine Trades Association like to see that might help the industry thrive and make sure it stays here as well?
Well, I think on the boat building side is really to promote that core competency in boat building and boat manufacturing, boat engineering and boat design to entrepreneurs that want to come to Rhode Island and build a boat company, because it's unique in its ability to do that and to provide all the services and expertise that's needed. Without building a whole company, you have a virtual boat company in Rhode Island. You just need to know where to get to source the parts.
Kind of like Silicon Valley of boats.
A bit. It is a bit. And it's been built over many years with huge expertise.
Now, Hunt Yachts are actually designed by naval architects, right? And that's not true of every boat you could buy, right?
Well, naval architects in the industry is a bit of a loose term. There are very university-trained naval architects, and then there are self-taught naval architects. What Hunt is unique is that they've been doing naval architecture. They have a huge portfolio. They've been doing it for over 40 years, have experience of hundreds, thousands of boats and designs. So, they have a deep knowledge in this. So, and that's one of the reasons I associate myself with them. They are really the doctors of, naval architecture in small boats from, 25 feet to 100 feet.
There's, before we go to another break, I want to show, we have some video of pilot boats, which is another part of your business. And once they're getting that up, I want you to sort of explain what we're looking at and how do the pilot boats fit into what you do at Hunt?
Yeah, very much. The pilot boats are interesting because they offer a huge amount of credibility to what we do. And also, they're the same genetics of what the boats that we're building. The 52 pilot boat is very much the same hull form and drivetrain and balance and engineering as our 52-foot Hunt yacht. And the pilots are 24/7 people. They can buy anything they want. They have a boat built for a specific purpose to run quickly offshore, to put a pilot on board a ship. And they choose a Hunt because of the safety, the predictability, and it's a military spec. We also design boats for the police, the New York Police, the U.S. Coast Guard, and things like that. And I think that speaks to the depth of knowledge and the real credibility that we have in offshore performance, which is ultimately what you live with in a boat, or people that are real boaters live with in terms of traveling around the coast. Great.
Well, that's all the time we have for this, but I want to thank Peter Van Lancker for joining me, giving me some insight into the boating world and Hunt Yachts. When we come back, we're going to do Social Enterprise 101. It's a new type of business that's taking off pretty fast. Stick with us. You're watching Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and I'm joined now by Kelly Ramirez, CEO of Social Venture Partners, Rhode Island. How long has Social Venture Partners been around now?
The organization has been around for about 10 years. We did a pretty significant mission shift about 3 years ago.
Yeah, because its profile has risen, I would say.
Yes, yes.
So let's start with the question, and I bet you have to answer this all the time. What the heck is social enterprise?
Yes, it is a question that I get a lot. So social enterprises are nonprofit or for-profit businesses that have been developed to improve the community. So on the nonprofit side, I often talk about Amos House, which is a social service agency, soup kitchen, and they run 4 businesses: a catering company, a construction company, a restaurant, and a packaged food mix company. And those businesses train and employ the population that they serve while generating revenues for the nonprofit mission. On the for-profit side, we're seeing more and more for-profit businesses that are aiming to solve a social challenge, and they're doing it through traditional business channels. So I often talk about a local company called Maternova, which is selling products that are serving maternal health, the challenges that are faced with maternal health in the developing world. And they are selling products online and generating revenues just like any other business would. But
So the question people might have is, how does this different from a nonprofit, or on a regular nonprofit, or in the example of the for-profit company?
Right.
Do they have a limit on the profit they'll take, or is it more about the mission and sort of what the day-to-day focus is?
It is about the mission, and there's really no scientific answer on the for-profit side. So that's one of the challenges and what makes the sector a little bit blurry. But it really is, what is the reason for being? Why did the entrepreneur create this company? Did one of the entrepreneurs that we work with, he's a teacher at Highlander Charter School, and he created a company called Metrics. And it's basically an app that is providing very quick feedback to teachers so that they can customize student lesson plans. So he created that business because kindergarten teacher, saw what was happening in the classroom, cares about those students, and he figured out a way to solve that problem and make money at the same time. And
if a social enterprise is for profit, does that mean all of the profit will go into the company, or are they willing to keep a certain level of profit? You know, I guess that's a point maybe that it's so blurry.
Yeah, each company is a little bit different, and of course the staff is collecting salaries, et cetera, and in some cases, you know, there are caps on salaries. There are no shareholders in many cases, and so it just depends on the business model. But in the DNA in a social entrepreneur, you really see that the reason they've created the company is to solve the social challenge.
Now, this coming weekend, you're hosting, and I have the program right here, the SEED Summit. It's the Social Enterprise Ecosystem Economic Development Summit at Brown University. Last year, you had a bit more than 425 social enterprise leaders from 15 states there. What's the purpose of the summit? What will people be learning about?
Right. So we are gathering all of the stakeholders in the social enterprise ecosystem. So we're talking about the social entrepreneurs. We're talking about the business community that is actually providing skills that many of the social entrepreneurs need. Social investors, individuals that are interested in contributing philanthropically into some of the nonprofit businesses and being investors in some of the for-profit businesses, and policymakers, which are recognizing that this is a growing sector in the economy that they need to support and take seriously. And the goal is to share best practice, network, learn from each other, and ultimately raise the visibility of this sector.
Classic summit stuff.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
You mentioned political leaders. I know you've a whole host of political leaders I cover when I'm wearing my political hat. Congressman Cicilline, Senator Whitehouse, Rep. Blazajewski, Mayor Taveras, Treasurer Raimondo. They've all expressed support for the mission of social venture partners and social enterprise. I think some of them have even said Rhode Island could become the Silicon Valley of social enterprise. I know I just used that same allusion in the last segment. How could that happen, and what would that mean?
Right. Well, one of the things that has been very beneficial for our work is the small size of Rhode Island. So we're the only state in the nation that has been able to aggregate the sector. So we know what the sector looks like. We've created a community of interest, and we're very actively supporting those social entrepreneurs and really building up the pipeline and the interest. So we're getting, you know, an inquiry from on average, one new social entrepreneur per week that's interested in trying to start a new company. So our goal is to really raise the visibility of Rhode Island and say, hey, if you want to do social enterprise, if you want to start a company, this is the place to do it, because we have this vibrant ecosystem. We have 126 of some of Rhode Island's leading entrepreneurs that are involved in our organization and are giving their time and expertise to these social enterprises. So it's a great place to launch a business.
Let's say someone's watching and says, I have an idea for a social enterprise. What's the first step? Are they going to write a business plan just like a classic for-profit business would?
Yes. So we run a number of programs where we try to help entrepreneurs get started, because many of the inquiries that I get are people who have an idea. And one of the first things that we encourage them to do is market research and look at what's happening elsewhere, and replicate when it makes sense, and diversify when it doesn't. And we do a lot of work with universities. There's a real interest among young people in this work. So often we'll try to find a team of students who will do some of that legwork and some of that research for the entrepreneurs. Then if it seems like the idea has legs, then we'll hook them up with some of our professional mentors. We'll transition them into an incubator program that we run. And we'll continue to support them through things like the Buy with Heart Marketplace, which is a business directory and an e-commerce platform that we run that where consumers can find social enterprise products. So we try to help with the marketing of social enterprises. And finally, we operate a loan fund. So for those ventures that we think have high potential for success, we'll invest in them.
And investment, that gets me back. You're CEO of Social Venture Partners Rhode Island. We've been talking about social enterprise generally, but you specifically have that organization. What's the elevator pitch version of Social Venture Partners specifically?
So we're a partner-based organization. We have these 126 partners who are contributing their time and their financial resources to grow the sector. And we have a four-pronged approach, basically. We're building the community, trying to create connections among the entrepreneurs and with the mentors. We run several incubator programs. One is a youth program, so we're thinking about how do we build the pipeline of the next generation of entrepreneurs. And part of that also is with very robust partnerships with the university community. And then we're building up really the market or awareness about the sector because, as you said, very few people know about it. It's something that's been around for a while, but it's really taken off in the last 5 to 10 years. So we're playing that role, and then finally we have our loan fund, but in addition to that, we're trying to really create capital flows from elsewhere into the sector as well.
We only have about a minute left, so I want to get quickly from you two examples I like, Arctics and Chocolateville. Tell me about those two.
Okay, well, Save Chocolateville is a startup, right? So, and that was founded by the executive director of Leadership Rhode Island, and basically he became very interested in some of the problems that Central Falls was facing and thought, like, how can I raise money for Central Falls and not just be asking people to give me handouts? And so Mike came up with the idea. He created a partnership with a very famous local Central Falls-based chocolatier and created a chocolate bar. And he is selling that directly to companies and consumers, and he's also selling that at Whole Foods, I believe, and it's a great chocolate bar. And all of the profits from that chocolate bar are going to a fund that supports children in Central Falls.
I have to cut you off there because of time, but I'll let people Google Arctics. That's another example, right? And it's another interesting case.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining me. Brown University hosting the Seed Summit this week, so people can learn more about that. And I want to thank Peter Van Lancker of Hunt Yachts, who joined me on the first half of the show. If you missed any of this week's Executive Suite, you can always catch the episodes online at WPRI.com. I'll see you next week and every week here on Executive Suite.